Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the EDU Igniters Challenge. I am Jamal Maxim. I'm an igniter of champion leaders. For all of you who don't know me, I help emerging leaders accept the call to leadership and ignite change within the sphere of education, however they do it. This is bonus day number 2. Last week, we talked about the DNA of an igniter, and we talked about what it means to be an igniter and how you must ignite the roots. And then we talked about overcoming the challenges of igniting and how to keep the flame and keep the fire going. Then we put all of those things together in what's called an ignition playbook, which is your strategy. Now, every day of the challenge, we were taking action. And so each day we built upon the previous day to take action and to have those wins. And then we put it all in a playbook. Now, what we are in right now is an bonus session. Yesterday's bonus session was all about building your resume. It was for people who feel like their way of igniting change in education meant shifting positions, shifting either in another school district or shifting and taking on a leadership position or even going to another building within their same district. So we talked about some tips and some strategies on how to strengthen your resume. Now, today I have some guests with me, and those of you who are listening on the live audio app, you will hear the audio but not see them in the room. And everyone who's watching live on other platforms, you will see my guest as I bring her on shortly. My wife, Valerie Maxim, who's a former educator. She's going to share how she knew it was time to transition out of education in the way that she was serving. This is one of the biggest questions right now. A lot of people are wondering, should they quit? You know, there's the hashtag teacher quit, hashtag watch me leave. And if those of you who have watched the replay or listened to the replay of day one, I shared all the statistics of things that are going on in terms of the teachers and the superintendents as well as principals who are thinking about quitting. And a lot of it is because of the stress of the pandemic, the challenges that we're facing right now. And so you have to know when it's your time. Now, I'm not going to tell you whether you should quit or not. I'm not going to try to talk you into staying. That's not what I do. My job is to ignite you in order to make a change and decide to do what it is in your heart to do in terms of education. And if you feel like your time, your season is up, and so you want to make sure that you leave in a certain place and leave whole so that you can step into your next chapter, whatever that is, from a place of wholeness and not brokenness or hurt. And so I'm going to bring on screen my wife, Valerie. She's going to introduce herself and then begin to share how she sensed and how she thought, how she knew it was her time to transition and what that looked like for her. And so go ahead and introduce yourself to the people and then tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start talking, and I'll dig in and maybe ask some questions and make this more interview style as well. So go ahead.
Well, as Jamal said, I am Valerie Maxim. I am a former teacher of 17 years. I am also a former principal, a team leader. What else? Department head. So I've had vast experience in education, and all my experience though has been in the urban environment. And I think, Jamal, you wanted me to just jump into how I knew it was time to transition.
Yeah, go ahead and start talking about what you sensed, because I know before you transitioned, it was like some years before you actually did it. It was about 3 years in a row. You talked about, the grace is lifted. It's time for me to leave the classroom. And so, let's talk about, what you sensed during that time and what made you stay those other 2 years, and then what really helped you figure out it was your last year when it was your last year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for about 3 years, probably even more than that, I knew that I would be transitioning out of education. Um, but the thing is, I was being prepared to transition. So I think that those 3 years were preparation for me to transition out of education and do it in a way that would not negatively impact me or our household. And so, as you said, that I knew that the grace had lifted, or we say that my patience was shorter, my level, and I found that things that didn't used to bother me began to somewhat bother me, and just not being in a good place going there emotionally. Now, that's not to say that if a person is not in a good place emotionally with their employment and employer, they should leave. But however, I knew the difference. And so, yeah, I knew that it was time to go, but things didn't work out for me to leave, for, like you said, for about 3 years. And that's one thing that I think that people have to be careful of forcing it, even though they know that it's time to go. Just making sure they're in the correct timing so that things can be done appropriately. But on the other hand, I think that people need to also know that when it's time to go, they shouldn't linger or stay longer, if that makes sense.
Let me interrupt you real quick because you said something that I really think we need to rest on, even in this moment that you said it. And you talked about timing. You said that you had to recognize the timing of when it was time to go and not to rush or force it. Can you elaborate on that? And then you begin to talk about, too, how you can't linger. So you can't overstay, but you also can't rush and force it. And so, talk about those two dynamics and how did you know which was which?
So I think for about 3 years, I I was talking to other teachers and even my principal, because it wasn't a secret, I wasn't trying to do something undercover about my desire, my next season in my life and my desire. And so for about 3 years, I would talk about it. And so people around me knew what I was doing, and they even celebrated it. They rejoiced with me at the next step in my life. So how did I know that it was time to go, or how did I know when that time was up? I had a peace about it. There was no struggle, no confusion. My mind was made up. I was clear. When my last year was, when it was finally my last year, I was settled. And so I wasn't confused. I didn't have any doubts. I wasn't afraid. I just knew that it was time to go. As far as staying too long, for me, part of my thing is praying. And so, I was constantly talking to my father, talking to dad about it, God about it. And so that two things wouldn't happen, so that I wouldn't become anxious and make a decision, but also so that I wouldn't miss timing either by staying or going. And so, if whatever a person's norm is, if people pray or if they meditate or whatever the thing is that they do to get them in a place where they can be settled about their decision, I think that that is beneficial. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good because you talked
Oh,
about timing. And one of the things that, because I had this discussion last week with an individual on Clubhouse, and it was the same thing. You can't rush it, and I really want to emphasize that because you can know the grace is lifted. You can know it's time to move on, and like you were saying, Val, that you notice your patience was shorter and things were starting to bother you that didn't used to bother you, and you just felt the change internally even though the external situations may have been the same. And sometimes people, when they feel that, they just automatically just launch out with no plan, or they do it out of the spur of the moment. And I do believe in spontaneity. I do believe in following your heart and following your dream. But I also believe, like you said, in timing, because with knowing the time is wisdom. If you rush out ahead of time, then you make your next chapter too hard for you or harder than it's supposed to be. And if you stay too long, you damage the students, damage the culture, damage the teachers that you're working with, and you miss the opportunities that were waiting on you. And now you have to try to play catch up to where you were supposed to be. So I think that was key about timing. And so, like right now, a lot of people are thinking about quitting because of these external factors. What would you say to them if, the ones that are thinking about, is this my last year? I'm tired of the foolishness with the pandemic. I'm tired of the mandates. I'm tired of parents getting aggressive at board meetings, superintendents having strokes and all of these other things that are going on. What would you say to educators right now that are thinking maybe the grace is lifted, or maybe I'm just fed up? But either way, I'm ready to bounce. What would you say to them?
I would say that they shouldn't make an emotional decision. Never make an emotional decision, because that has long-term consequences for your life and for others around you. So what you have to do is to remove yourself emotionally from the situation, which means take a step back, take out the emotional component of the frustration, or feeling disrespected, or all these mandates, and then just think logically in the moment. And if you can't do that, get someone that will be accountable to you and you're accountable to, that you trust, that you can talk to, who is not in the situation and can see a little bit clearer than you. But also on the other hand, it may be time for you to go, because all of those things happening, it just may be time for you to leave. And you just have to make peace with that as well, and not force yourself to stay in a situation because this is all you've known, or this is all you have been doing. So yeah, I think removing yourself from the situation, bringing someone else in who has clarity of thought and mind, who's not invested as the degree that you are, but also just recognizing that sometimes those things that you are experiencing is an indication that it's time for a change. And even then, you should still talk to somebody if you're not sure. So
That's
one thing
good.
I was going to say one thing that, well, you live with me, so you pretty much know this. When my mind is made up about something, and Jamal could tell you that, my mind is made up. And the only time, that's when when I say, that I have peace about something, or this is the direction I'm going, my mind, Jamal already knows, but anybody who knows me, my mind is made up. That means I have peace, I have direction, I know where I'm going, what I'm doing. So it's interesting. I was a principal for 1 year and I didn't like it. And I told this story before, but however, in my emotions, I did not like it. But I didn't make a decision to like quit, leave, or whatever, or even transition from that position in my emotional state. So what I did, I took some time, as I mentioned before, to pray, to wait, and to hear an answer. And I remember coming home telling Jamal, so the school I was a principal at, they were transitioning to another location. And I knew that I would not be transitioning with them to that next location. And so once I knew that for sure, I was done. There was no more conversation. So for me, I've always been like this, I guess. And another story is when I was teaching at a school, and I think I stayed there for 3 or 4 years. I even stayed there after people quit who came with me and who said, "Why are you still there?" Because even though I knew that it was not the best environment, I didn't have a release to go. But when I did, I'm going to tell you this, I didn't have a job. I didn't have an offer. I didn't know where I was going. But when I have peace and I have direction, that's all I need. So, of course, they did the exit interview. And I don't know if they thought I was lying, because they were asking me, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know. Well, you have any interviews? Nope. I really think they thought I was just trying to hold out on them. So they would ask me that a couple of times. They would have different people from the leadership team come around and ask me. And the truth was, I did not have a job, didn't know where I was going. but I had peace and I had direction. So I think that that's very important.
Absolutely. And you brought out having peace and having direction, and you stepped out without a job, and you stepped out um, on one occasion because you just knew. And but you also talked about the timing as to how people were leaving, but you knew it wasn't your time, even though people who came with you. And so having that peace and not being moved by what everyone else is doing or even by the external factors is essential. And I just really think that that's helpful, because right now there are a lot of external factors that could move people. I talked about the mandates, but also just seemingly unfair policies not that have nothing to do with the pandemics that are being demanded upon school leaders as well as teachers. And so some of these new laws and regulations and um, that's being passed in some of the states about what needs to happen. They might not like it and may want to quit, but it's important to sit back and really get a sense of what should I be doing in this season? What's being required of me in light of what I now know? That's the question we always ask when we pray and ask, ourselves. And so for someone who needs to get clarity, but it seems like they can't because so much is going on and they can't really get a moment of peace or a moment of silence, how do you recommend that they pull back and get that clarity, that peace, and that silence, so that they can be clear on
Mhm.
what direction they need to go in right now in this season?
There are so many practical ways that you could do this. So, like if you have so many different thoughts as to what you should do, which way you should go, you can, and these are just practical things, journal everything you think just to get it out. Just journal it, because sometimes once you read it, you realize, no, that doesn't make sense or that's not going to work. So when you journal it, put it to the side for a day and then come back to it and look at it. Also, you can calm your mind. You calming your mind means this, that you deliberately take control of your thinking. So that means that if whatever thoughts are giving you issues are causing confusion, you deliberately choose not to think on those things or to focus on those things. And so it's just so many things that you could do to step away from the situation, because emotional confusion stems from most times people being too close to the situation and they have not allowed themselves to hear the answer because they're too emotionally involved. So that means you have to step away, but you might already have the answer. But if you're worked up and if you are anxious and if you are frustrated, you're not going to be able to hear clearly what you should do. But I also feel this, that everybody can't jump ship. This is what I hear, that
Mhm.
everybody can't jump ship, because if you jump ship, who's going to help the boat float? So
Yeah.
some people have to remain, even though you don't like it. This is your calling for this season. If you leave and everybody leaves, what happens to the children? So what the thing is, and I know that Jamal is big on leaders and all of this, but however, even if you never want to be a leader, you will always have a successor. That person who comes behind you, whether you directly influence them or not, whether you know them or not, somebody is always coming behind you. So if you leave and there is no successor there or nobody to take your spot, then what's going to happen to the children? When I left the one thing I always say and declare is that any place I work is better, because I've been there. And so when I left my most current position, in my heart, I didn't want them to be without. So by the time I left, everything was in order. So there was a successor, if you will, to step right into my place, and nobody suffered. And so, and I was even willing to train. And I even asked my principal, do you want to send somebody up here with me so they can see what I'm doing? I have no problem with that. So you just have to be aware of that everything we do impacts somebody else, whether you know it or not, see it or not. And you don't want to start perpetuating that cycle. Some people call it karma. Some people of faith call it reaping and sowing, but you don't want to start that cycle in your life of this type of reaping and sowing, because there is going to be a time when you're in charge and you're going to need people to be in position, and you're going to want them to not necessarily be emotional and leave, but be able to maintain the state of course. So that's my
Okay,
encouragement to you.
you said a lot, and I want to make sure that we jump in on some of those points and really hammer them in. But first, I want to do a quick reset for those of us who are listening on the replay to the live audio, watching the replay, watching the live video. This is the EDU Igniters Challenge, and this is bonus day 2. And we're talking about knowing when to quit, and basically how you know what your season is, as far as an educator. Now, one of the things you said that I really think we need to rest on, but I also want to be very clear. I know we're trying to be polite in terms of what people believe, but we don't speak karma. You know that we say sowing and reaping. So you don't have to be polite with that. It is what it is. Our audience, it is what it is. And so we speak from a certain perspective of kingdom. And so that's just how it is. And so I do believe in sowing and reaping, because that is so key, because what you sow, you will reap. So if you just jump ship, if you just leave, from a place of anger or frustration, you are sowing that in some kind of you're sowing that into that environment that other people will have to deal with. And then 2, you're sowing it into your next endeavor. So whether you are igniting change as an edupreneur, starting your own business to impact education, or whether you start your own business to do something else, or you change careers and begin to work somewhere else, or doing something different, what you have sown is definitely going to reap a harvest, to you in your next level. And so you never want to set yourself up for more challenges than you have to, because you left one thing a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I always talk about is that how you leave or end one thing is the exact way you begin the next. How you close one door is the exact way the next door will open. So you have to be extremely cautious as to what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then you said something else, Val, that I really wanted to hammer on as well. And those of you who've been participating in the challenge, it started last Monday. You've heard me say this. Everybody's role of igniting, this sphere, this realm, this industry of education is different. And so for some of you, you're in the classroom, you're an influencer in your classroom, and you're influencing change, from the classroom position, because leadership is influencing people to take action. Some of you are stepping into school leadership roles, and some of you are stepping out, but maybe your assignment may be to start a business that impacts education in some kind of way and fills some kind of gap, whatever it is that you are seeing and whatever is being shown to you. And so I wanted to really focus in on everybody's not supposed to quit, and everybody's not supposed to go start a business. Everybody's not supposed to stay either. And so the whole point is for you to know what you are supposed to do right now, and not let the peer pressure of your coworkers say, I'm quitting, are you quitting, get to you, or the fame of people saying, watch me leave, and the teacher quit on TikTok gets you to make you feel like you need to quit. Yes, the people did what they felt like they needed to do, and my heart goes out to all of them. But you can't let your compassion move you to an action that's inappropriate for you in this season. And then also some of you may be like, look, it is time for them to quit, but your assignment may be to stay, because a broken system breaks people. However, if you allow the system to stay broken, it will continue to break people. And so somebody has to be there to build a healthy system. A lot of people will say, well, no, we don't get changed by being in the system. We build our own. If that's the strategy you have, then good. but some people have to build from within while others have to build from without. And then we come around with a whole new healthy educational system. And so that's what igniting change is all about. And so so Val, can you jump back in and share some more about, because you said your last year you made sure that things were in place and that it was better than when you came, because a lot of people, don't want to do that. They just think that's their problem. And so what was your mindset behind that? And really, what is your mindset now in terms of this next chapter and this next thing that you've stepped into in terms of your career and really this season for you?
One thing though, I have to say, I was not a bitter teacher or employee. Sometimes you have bitter staff members, they're just totally unhappy in the environment and the culture suffers. I was not that one. I had a good relationship with my principal, and that doesn't mean that I agreed with him every time, but I did understand the mandate that was upon him, the demands that were upon him because I'm a former principal, and things that were unspoken. And so I understood that some decisions were made that I didn't have input in and never would. And so what I attempted to do was be there for him and my team. And so when I say leave better than when I came, um, I'll express it to you like this. He asked me on 2 different occasions, "Are you sure you have to leave?" And that's what you want people to say to you. Are you sure you have to go? You sure you got to leave? You can't stay one more year? Not rushing you out the door. Even to the point that um, the person over the tech, she came into my room and she was like, "We are losing a great teacher," because change on that floor was evident. So I'm just going to say some things that I did. The year I got there, to me, it looked the building, our floor looked like sterile. It looked like a hospital. The year I got there, I got my team to paint the building. I'm sorry, to paint our floor. So our floor was painted all different colors. We brought in chairs and tables and decorations. And so we made it like a lounge area so the kids could go out and sit there if they earned it and read and study or whatever. Um, I decorate, like I'm like, let's get some decorations up. So for Christmas, we put up a Christmas tree on our floor and we decorated. We hung lights from the ceiling. So I'm saying that I made sure not only academically, but with the climate and culture, especially on my floor, that we were an example and that not that people couldn't talk to me because they could, but they knew that I'm not going to sit and complain. And so for me, that's making it better. And that was the first thing. And the I think the last question you asked me, Jamal, was about my last year or where I am at this point.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm about to do now, is that what you're asking me?
Well, just speak to, we're hearing how what you did on your last year to transition out. Speak to, without giving too much detail, because I know a lot of things are still in the works, but whatever you feel like speaking to in terms of you leaving and how you recognize what you need to step into to launch the endeavor that you're launching. And, because I don't know if you shared that, along this time, you've been focusing on, stress related illnesses and the mind body connection in terms of getting your doctorate degree in psychology. And so you not only have a master's in teaching, you're almost done with your doctorate. And then with that level of education and the things that you were learning and how you were applying it, in the school setting, but how you really just recognize, okay, my time is up, and how you knew what to launch into. Because I had a question the other day and someone asked me, how do I know what options are there for me if and when it's my season to leave? Because I don't want to be a consultant. because the most common thing educators do when we leave the classroom or leave the school building or leave the district and we say, okay, I'm gonna launch my own thing, we go into being a consultant or a public speaker. And so while that's good, and if that's your thing, I can help you with that. But that might not be everybody's thing, because I know that for a while you were tapped out. You was like, I don't want to see another student. I don't want to help tutor.
And I still don't.
I don't want to do none of that. And
I
so
don't.
you were tapped out. So how did you know the direction for the vision that you have and the dream that was given to you, by God? How did you know? Of course, we can say we pray and we heard, but give people some practical things about the direction to go in, because some folks are leaving, and some may have been premature because they saw that Instagram life, entrepreneur life, and thought that they were just going to just start a business, start a course, and then boom, I'm gonna be on the beach, I'm gonna be in Florida or Mexico somewhere on the beach and working, making money while I sleep. And so of course we're going to talk about edupreneurship tomorrow, because before you can make money while you sleep and have residual income and automated systems, you need to know how to make it while you're awake. You need to know how to reach your target market. You need to understand business. And so, but Val, share how you knew what endeavor to go into in light of your experience as an educator, all of your success, as well as what you have been learning in your doctorate program.
Okay, so I have an educational specialist degree in education. So I have a master's then at EDS, but I got the EDS because I was all but dissertation in my education courses, and it just never came through that I could complete the doggone dissertation for my educational courses, which would given me a doctorate in education, which worked out for my good,
I was just going to say, pause right there and dig deeper on how that worked out, because you were going for your doctorate in education. It didn't work out, but now you're getting a doctorate in psychology, which is working out for you for better and helping you along your path. So labor on that just a little bit before you move on.
Yeah, I went through my master's degree with no problem, even went through the doctoral study in education, no problem, until I get to the dissertation. And when I say I don't understand what was happening, I mean, for whatever reason, I just could not get through it. Not because my teacher, I don't know. I just can't even articulate, Jamal, what it was, but I never advanced. So I was in one course, I think it was for 4 months, and I never gotten any further than I initially was when I first started the course. And so it ended up going, I think I ended up being in the same course for like 4 different semesters or something like that. That was crazy. And so I complained to the dean of students, and then ultimately what they said I could do, they were like, you finished all your coursework to have your EDS, so technically you don't have to do the doctoral study, because that's the only difference between the educational specialist degree and the doctoral study is the dissertation. Basically, you're done if you just want to take this EDS. And I'm like, let me just take it. So I did that. And so with my current endeavor, what I started with is not what I ended up with. I knew I had a desire and I knew which way I wanted to go based on what I was currently learning in the clinical psychology degree program, which is what I'll have in May. I'll be a clinical psychologist. And so I knew that I wanted to do something with the information I was learning. My passion area outside of education became health and wellness, and not medicinally, not having to take medication, because I'm just using myself as a case study. I'm like, it has to be a better life, because what was happening for so many years, I now know that I was stressed out being a teacher. My body was affected. I was sick every year. You might have some teachers that experience that on here. They get a cold every year. They are out of school, a lot during the school year. They're just sick, and so my body was talking. So your body talks to you. And so it could speak softly or loud. And it's easier to manage if it's just giving you some soft indications like, okay, you need to slow down. But for me, I had strep throat every year. I had laryngitis 2 or 3 times. I mean, I was just sick, had colds. And so in pursuing health and wellness for myself brought me to this passion where I am right now. And I knew that you want to do something that nobody has to pay you to do. And here to say this, what you do for free, you would most likely get paid for. And so really that's what it is. This thing that you could do for free, that's your passion area. So like working out, dance, fitness, learning about the body, all that stuff I liked. And that's a part of my dissertation. And so that's my next area that I'm going to. So, and it wasn't always that way. It just developed. So as I was saying that, I was being developed over time for those 3 years that you said that I kept saying to you that the grace is lifted. Over those 3 years, things were being deposited into me so that when I left, I would have some direction, not the full totality of the whole thing, but some direction of which way to go. As I began to talk to people, because like I recommended to your viewers to talk to people, my ideas began to come together better. Because as I heard people's opinions, as I listened, as I didn't hold so tight to my vision, then it started to come together to what it is now. So it's that thing that you're doing right now, that your job, your teaching is providing the resource for you, but it's that thing that you do on the side. Like when you go home, you make on my job, there was a lady who crocheted, and like she crocheted us all blankets. That's just that was relaxing to her to crochet. And I said to her, girl, you can start a business, just get you something on Etsy or whatever site they wanted. So basically it's your passion area, that thing that you would do for free. It really probably could make you money. You're muted.
That's good. So you said it was your passion area, and so what helped you is, one, that other thing didn't work out that you were pursuing, and that's a whole different kind of lesson in itself, that sometimes life will close doors for you, and those doors are favored. Those doors are actually yeses to the right thing and no to the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so because that door closed for you in terms of your doctorate in education, you got what is it called?
The EDS?
Yeah, the EDS. And then now that basically positioned you to get your doctorate in psychology. And as you have been building upon these passion areas, you were able to really roll into launching a business that's in your passion area. But one other key thing I want to add, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow in tomorrow's bonus session, it has to be your passion, but it also has to be your calling, and it also has to solve a problem. Because some people are passionate about areas and they probably could teach a class about it or teach a course about it. But if it doesn't address a specific need or solve a specific problem, then 9 times out of 10, it'll be more challenging to monetize and generate income from it. And so you have to make sure that you are looking at what you're passionate about, looking at the skill set that you have, and really being sensitive to what you're supposed to move into on how you use your skill set and passion to meet a need that somebody may have. And so
can I add another perspective to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that everybody's passion can make money because there's no new idea. I don't care how original a person thinks that they are. There's nothing as far as when I say, now there may be a new way to do something. Sorry, I cut my phone down. There may be a new way to do something, But technically there are no new ideas. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. So I said that to say this, that I believe everybody's passion area can make money, but they have to know how to do it in a way that will make them money. Now, the way you might want to do it initially might not be fruitful, and it might not produce, a harvest or bring in income. So that's where you need like somebody like you, a coach, to help a person. That's just your area thing. You could just, that's your strength in helping people do that. Like narrowing down what they should be focusing on, what they should be doing, because I do believe that we all have within us the ability to create, and to bring things into the earth. But like I said, sometimes we just don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because we definitely all have the ability to create, and it's the how we have to do it, and the when, because sometimes there are certain things that we may desire to do and think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do next, and that might not necessarily be it, because you may have to build towards the fullness of what you are anticipating or wanting to do. And so,
and the last thing I'll say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to close it out because we've been 42 minutes in.
Just let me close out with the one thing you said. Because the way the way this vision started is not what we're working with now.
Exactly.
So the desire I had, until I got that thing straight, it would have not been as productive as it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing and I'll talk more about this tomorrow, because tomorrow's session is geared specifically towards if you are stepping out and launching a business because you feel like your time in the district in that manner and the way you've been serving is done. But you definitely have to allow your dream to unfold, and you have to allow the strategy of it to unfold. And my former business coach says, you have to iterate your way to awesome, because right now the way I articulate how I help people is totally different than how I started 2 years ago. And what I'm doing now is definitely different from what I was doing 3 years prior to that. People if you've heard me speak, you've heard me say I thought I had a business before, but I didn't, because I was just sharing leadership tips, because that was my thing, because I recognized the gap in leadership preparation, but I never really went any more than motivating people. And so when you're talking about allowing what's in you to help somebody, you have to move past motivation and inspiration. You have to actually help people get the transformation they need, however that's going to look. And so this has been a great discussion. I noticed people have been in and out in the live audio room, as well as, in the video, but feel free to comment, to like, and to share this video while it is available, so that that it will help people, all the people that you feel like they need help or some guidance or some advice on what to do. Share this video. If you are listening on the audio app, feel free to share it, and have people listen to the replay, because this has definitely been some pertinent information and you're hearing firsthand, not just someone say, do this strategy, do that strategy, do that strategy, but you're hearing someone share from their experience on what they did. Because some people, I'll tell you this, a lot of people are looking for formulas and frameworks, which there's nothing wrong with, but sometimes there isn't an exact formula for your situation. And you have to kind of just be able to be wise and discern, your next steps. And then sometimes you have to take those steps one at a time. You might not know what step 10 is going to be. You only know step 1. And so you have to take step 1. And then as you keep doing that, you will eventually figure out what step 10 is supposed to be, or even get to where step 10 is. And so And so we're going to close it out, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to really work with me and to go deeper into just what we're sharing. You know, we did this challenge, the 5-day EDU Igniters Challenge, and it's all about igniting hope and igniting change in education, whatever that would look like for you, whether it be as a business person or an entrepreneur, which is really a business person, or as a school leader or a person of influence in whatever role you're serving. And so all of these things you want to do, you want to ignite your passion and ignite the passion of others. And so there's an opportunity to not only go deeper in this content, but get personalized help from me, because this is the thing that I do all the time. This is what I've done, you know, as a principal and as an educator. I ignited change, and this is what I've had to do to step out into my own business and help other people, you know, launch out into theirs. And so this offer was created specifically with you in mind. It's personalized attention. It's not a course for you to take. It's not an automated anything. It's us working together and live one-on-one sessions via virtual, you know, whether it be Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something like that, and getting stuff done. Now, let me describe to you what these 5 sessions going to look like, and then you guys know, you know, you have to. We talked earlier about sowing and reaping. There is an investment involved, but I'm gonna tell you, for the amount of time you're going to get with me, you're going to think the investment is way too low. And so here's the first thing. The first session is the call to action. It is when we identify the one need that you will address and the pathway that is best for you. Meaning that as an igniter, how we're going to ignite you to be an igniter of change and an igniter of hope. And we're going to help you figure out the pathway, whether it is being a person of influence from the classroom, shifting positions, becoming a leader, becoming an entrepreneur, or doing something totally different. We're going to help you figure out what that path is so that you can do it. My wife said earlier, a lot of times people don't know how to do what they need to do. And I'm telling you, my gift is strategy. And so I'm going to help you do it. And then session 2, we're going to identify the root and we're going to ignite them, meaning we're going to identify which root to ignite and create a strategy together with practical steps to ignite it. You guys know in the challenge I talked about there were 3 roots you need to ignite. No matter what kind of challenge or what you're doing, you need to always ignite hope, ignite passion, and ignite joy. And if you don't do those 3 things, nothing that you are trying to do to help people will last. It won't stick. It'll be good in a moment, but it won't stay. And so we're going to work together and create a specific strategy to ignite those things along with the identified need that you are going to meet, the identified problem that you are going to solve. And then the third session is the fire strategy. We're going to, again, work together. We're taking steps, we're taking action, and we're creating another strategy to anticipate the challenges, to develop a predetermined response to them, also reactive solutions to them, and proactive solutions to challenges to stop them from happening that you might face, and then deal with our mindsets so that we can know how to deal with challenges that we did not anticipate. It's all about developing those strategic thinking skills, those problem solving skills, and cutting things off as they go. Because I'm telling you, someone who has ignited change in schools, someone who consults, you know, with leaders, someone who consults with business owners, there's a lot of stuff that you face, and you don't know what you don't know until sometimes it's time for you to know it. And so you want to make sure that you are ready and that you ignite change and anticipate those challenges and prepare. Now, then session 4 is the accelerant. You're going to learn how to grow and maximize your influence, and you're going to determine the right pacing. Remember, Val was saying that if you go too fast and you can't go too slow, there's a pacing for transitioning out of education. There's a pacing, as you heard last week, to igniting change within education, regardless of what it looks like. And you have to know timing. Acceleration is a change in velocity over a change in time. And velocity is determined by progression, not just movement. Velocity means you're making progress, and you are not going back to your original position. And so what you want to do is determine the pacing so you can continue to make progress and never back up and go to your original position. And so that's what we're going to do in session 4. And then in session 5, we have the Ignition Playbook. You guys started working on it on your own by taking action during this challenge. By session 5, that Ignition Playbook will be full of strategy, actions, as well as your thoughts, your reflections on the actions that you've taken. This playbook, that's last session, is all about how to keep moving with what you have started in. A lot of people can start, but know how to do, and start easy thing, and you're in the honeymoon phase of it. But how do you continue when the emotional excitement kind of starts to wane a little bit, when you start dealing with challenges, when it starts taking a little more time than you thought, or even doesn't look like you thought, because it's going to continue to evolve? What do you do? And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a plan in place, and I'm going to help you through it by walking with you in session 5. Now you get all 5 of those sessions. Then plus, as a bonus, you get unlimited access to me by phone, not by phone, by text and by email, with a 48-hour response time, meaning I will respond to you with a quality answer, not a fluff answer, not just something you want to hear, but a quality answer that help you make the right decision in the right moment. Now, here is the investment for that. The investment for all of that is only $4.95. That's it. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have courses that are twice the investment for that. I have courses that have twice that number of tuition for that. And so I'm telling you, you are getting personalized attention from me every single session for only the investment of $4.95. And here's why the investment is that amount. It's simply because I want to help as many people as possible. And so I did not want the level of investment to be a barrier for you as you are trying to figure out how you can step into this place of greater influence and igniting change in education, whether it be through leadership, in the building, or leadership as an entrepreneur. I didn't want you to have any hindrances to making the step that you're supposed to do in this season, because I firmly believe this is the time for all of us to live our dreams and stop talking about it, stop looking at it, stop wishing it, stop staring at the vision board, and actually put strategy to it and make it happen. So you can go to jamalmaxim.org/ignite me and sign up. And as soon as you do, we will have an opportunity. We will schedule our first personal, person-to-person, face-to-face virtual session, and we'll keep it moving. Now, one of the things I'll say too is that if you took action during this challenge, and we're checking off in the playbook on your action checklist, you get a bonus 40-minute session with me. So if anybody took action, you get 6 sessions with me, plus access by DM or email, unlimited access by DM or email. And because I'm the kind of person I am, in terms of I just want you to succeed, any content that I've taught or any content that I'm going to teach during your time of working with me, I will give you access to it to help you grow. So you definitely want to take advantage of what we have going on. And so I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank you for watching live and for commenting, in the chat on the various platforms, for being, on the audio platform. That chat feature is on as well. And so if anyone has any questions or anything for Val before we go, feel free to share or type your question in the chat, either chats that you're on, because we'll see them and then we'll answer them real quick and give you some real time, real life advice, because, this is no plaything. when you're talking about transitioning, should you leave your career? Should you not? Should you change careers? A lot of folks are still paying on student loans, from getting into education. And so it's a big decision. And a lot of people can be fearful of what life is going to be like outside of a school building. That you deal with the feelings of guilt sometimes, or how the students going to feel, how the parents going to feel. Don't want to disappoint people, and so there are a lot of mixed emotions that happen. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat, in either chat, because all of them are open and viewable for me, and we will answer your question live. Now, if you don't want your question answered live, feel free to send a DM on whatever platform you are on, and we would DM you an answer and make sure that you get the help and the support that you need. And so while we're waiting a second for wait a minute, I see a question. Okay, cool. Someone just said, someone that was listening to the live audio, they just sent the messages and said, thank you, good stuff, much needed, and encouraged us to keep going strong. Thank you for that. We appreciate that compliment. We appreciate you for being and listening on the live audio room. And thank you. Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And so also, I see a compliment on LinkedIn. Thank you as well, telling us to keep it up. And so I don't see any questions or anything. So do you have any last bits of strategy or advice you want to share before we end? Hold on one second. You might have to repeat that because you were muted.
Okay, I saw that. I was going to say the only thing I wanted to reiterate was to make sure if a person is in that place where they don't know if they should leave or stay, they need to surround themselves with people who can encourage them, talk to them, listen to them, give them different perspectives, so that when they make a final decision, if they do leave, they'll leave in peace and leave with direction. Because it's hard to get direction when you're emotionally so emotionally close to the situation that you can't hear. Other than that, that's it.
Absolutely. So talk to people who are not so emotionally close to the situation, but also who are not emotionally involved in the situation and can give you sound judgment and sound wisdom, because you don't want someone who really doesn't understand you or your purpose or your calling just be like, yeah, quit that. You don't want to just talk to someone. Of course, it's good to talk to people and talk to peers, but I will add a caveat: talk to someone who's mature, who has the maturity level in life, the stature level in life that you can go to and talk to. Like for me, I talk to my mentor, John W. Stevenson, and run things by him, so that just to get those answers that are needed, and because of his maturity and his stature when I make decisions. So you want to make sure that you have someone that you can go to in that way, that is accomplishing things and has that maturity and level of wisdom that can help you. All right, so with that, it's 6 p.m. Eastern time. We got to go because I have another session I have to teach to a group of entrepreneurs. This has been really good, and so thank you guys.
Did you see Saki just logged in?
Yes, we're going to talk to Saki offline for 1 second, and so yes, we're going to end. You guys can tell this is real live. This is real life stuff. No private messages or anything. And so hey, so we will see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. No, I'm sorry, 5 p.m. Eastern, for the final bonus day of the challenge, where we're going to talk about if it is your time to step out as an entrepreneur or edupreneur, how to embrace that and deal with the challenges that come with it, because you're going to have challenges no matter what you do. So you have to choose the challenge that will help you stay in alignment. All right. So with that, we're going to end it. I want you to remember, be successful, lead like a champion. Go to jamalmaxim.org/ignite me. Get involved in the consulting offer so that I can walk with you and work with you personally and help you and bring people in like Val and Saki to give you some advice and do what they do, add their spin on it. All right. So with that, we will see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.